You're putting all of this effort into your LinkedIn company page, and all you hear are crickets. So, in today's episode, I thought we'd talk about the ways that you can improve your LinkedIn company page engagement rate. G'day, everyone. It is Coach Michelle J. Raymond, and I hope that LinkedIn's been treating you well. And this week, we're back onto LinkedIn company pages. Of course, it's one of my favorite topics, but it's also the one that most people reach out and they've got questions, or let's be clear, you're up against it with the LinkedIn algorithm and they're wondering, like, how do I fix this? So, in most cases, company page admins, whether you're a social media manager, whether you're doing it for your own business, maybe you're a B2B marketing manager, most of you are being measured on things like follower growth, followed by impressions, followed by engagement. So today we're going to look at the third one, engagement, and what are the things that I think are causing the problem? And most importantly, how can you fix it? I know that I just briefly mentioned the LinkedIn algorithm, but the truth is, it really doesn't favor LinkedIn company pages. And just a quick scroll of the home feed, and you'll see that your content is not being shown as much as that of personal profiles or sponsored content, i.e., paid campaigns through LinkedIn company pages. So, given that's the case, the fact is, when it comes to LinkedIn company pages, if we want results, we've really got to get strategic and, most importantly, intentional with our actions. In today's episode, I really want to talk about the biggest mistakes that I think are killing your engagement on your company page, how you can fix them. But before we do that, here's a quick word about our podcast sponsors, Metrical. Listeners, Metrical's 2025 social media study is here, and it is their most comprehensive report on social media trends. Get this, they analyze data from over 1 million accounts and over 21 million posts from 8 social networks to measure the evolution of all of these different platforms, help to forecast 2025 trends, and compare the results with the previous 2024 study. Now it's your turn. Download the full study for free, explore its pages, analyze the data, and find opportunities to grow your brand. Everything you need will be in the show notes. And as a bonus, don't forget, listeners, you can use the code Michelle30 to try any premium plan for 30 days. So make sure you go and check it out. The biggest mistake that I see coming from LinkedIn company pages across the board, and this is going to sound hilarious coming from somebody that is all about leveraging LinkedIn for business growth, is that the focus is entirely on get more leads. And I don't care what your role is within the business, but when your focus is on get more leads, then in turn, the content is geared towards get more leads. And let's be clear, nobody's coming onto LinkedIn to just have this stuff coming at them all day, every day from your brand. So what kind of content falls under the banner of lead gen content? Think about these things. We are talking about white papers where you have to go off and give your email address in exchange to be able to download something. We also have a look at events. You know the ones. Go to an external landing page, sign up for the event, drop your email address in, then we're going to share the details with you. Also, we've got book a demo, another classic lead gen post that goes through on too many company pages. We've got promos and giveaways, probably not something I see a lot. I don't necessarily think that they're the culprit, but if they're only being used with all of the other types of lead gen content, then that playbook gets pretty monotonous. And also sharing of case studies. And the main theme that happens through these is people can smell that from a mile away. They're really aware that, hey, you just want my email address so you can put me into a funnel so that you can go and spam me with stuff afterwards. And you may be arguing, but Michelle, it's marketing, it's not spamming. And I beg to differ, because it's not up to me. It's not up to you. It's up to your audience. And if your engagement rate on LinkedIn is showing that your audience is not commenting, they're not liking, they're not showing up, then that's the real judge. At the end of the day, my opinion doesn't matter. But if you are getting measured on engagement rate and you keep posting lead gen content, then you're on a highway to nowhere and you are not going to get those results that you're after. And the problem is that ultimately you fatigue the audience. They're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. When it's in here once or twice, it's great. But when it's every single post, you want something from me, oh, it's a bit of a snooze fest. And the main issue that I have with this is not that they're not valid forms of content, is the fact that there's a bigger opportunity that you are missing out on for your brand. And I'm going to talk about that after this short break. The main issue that I have with lead gen content is the fact that it is a really short term focus. And there's a bigger opportunity that you're missing out on, and that is building your brand. And that's typically what people will refer to on LinkedIn as demand generation content, which we're going to have a look at that in a moment. But it really, the main difference is shifting your focus from trying to get your audience to take action immediately to building your brand so we have long-term actions. Because as we've shared before in previous podcast episodes, if you look at things like the 95 and 5 rule that LinkedIn produced with the B2B Institute, then what you're looking at is most of your audience pretty much right now are not in the market to buy. So if you keep shoving lead gen content, hey, come this way, are you ready to buy? And they're looking at it going, no, honestly, I just wanted to learn something. I've got a problem. I was hoping you might be able to solve it. And all you're doing is give me your email address, give me your email address. And realistically, it's just with some graphic that really doesn't exchange any value with them. So it's a one-sided relationship. And as I say, people can smell that desperation from a mile away. And we want more than that for your brand, because I know if we focus on the long term, if we build your brand, this is where we get to charge higher prices. This is where people can recall your brand because you are top of mind. This is how you distinguish yourself from your competitors. All really cool stuff, whether you come from marketing, sales, or you're the business owner and really care about both. And so after the break, let's take a look at demand generation content and how this can really help your engagement rate. What is this demand generation content that I speak of? Well, I'm glad you asked, and I'm glad you're here, listeners, because ultimately this is the kind of content that distinguishes you from your competitors. And we are talking about content that focuses on educating your audience. We are doing things in service of them, content that helps them make buying decisions, content that helps them solve maybe small problems in their business. So when they move on to those bigger ones where they need help, well, guess who they think of? Your brand. Now, when you create content that is in service of your audience and they find it really valuable and useful, you are building that know, like, and trust factor, which we're always talking about. Now, I don't know about you, but if I find a piece of content, and I don't really care where it comes from, but if it helps me get towards my goals better, then I am the one that is going to leave a comment and say, thank you for sharing that. I've been having this issue. Or I'll just hit the like button as a simple way of acknowledging that I got value from that post. But if you're just talking about yourself as the brand, and again, going back to that lead gen content where it's all about you, then I'm not going to do that because I'm going to keep scrolling. So what's some really good examples of demand gen content? Well, this is what we would probably talk about in terms of thought leadership posts and industry insights, especially if you've done some really great research internally in your business and you share those results. Those posts always perform so well on LinkedIn. Why? Because people can't find that information anywhere else. It's unique to you and your brand. And that is what makes it super valuable. And again, how can they use what they've learned in their day-to-day life? So think about who is your target audience. Been thinking about this a lot this week. Your ideal customer profile, ICP, as it's thrown around, like everybody needs to define it. That's great. But if you don't keep them in mind while you're creating content, realistically, it's a waste of time. And this is why when you create thought leadership content, you really have to be focused on who you're doing it for. And hint, thought leadership content in my opinion, is never, ever, ever about making the brand look good, but it is every single time instilling confidence in your audience so that they look good, so that they achieve their goals, so that they get closer to those KPIs which they're measured on. And when you focus on that, the audience feels that and they're drawn to that and they want more of that. And they may not engage as much as if it's person to person, like over on the personal content, but it will absolutely fix your engagement issues on your company page if you start to switch things around from all about the brand to all about your ideal audience. We've established that there's lead gen content and demand gen content, and neither of them are good or bad, right or wrong, the holy savior of all content on LinkedIn that's going to bring in all of these leads or not. But the most powerful thing that I can give you today to fix your engagement rate is to make sure that we are using a good balance of both. And when I talk about my 3-2-1 content strategy, that is exactly what we are going to do. Now, I've covered it in episodes from quite a while back, but I think this is so important to help you fix your engagement rate on your company page. I'm going to go over it again, and you are going to want to write this down or go and check out the transcript. There's always a fully edited transcript in the show notes. And so go back and take a look at this. Okay. So now that you're ready, here's how the 3-2-1 content strategy works. It is all about having the right mix of demand gen and lead gen content. Now, how does it work? We're talking 3 + 2 + 1 = 6 posts. Now, if we look at those 6 posts on a company page, for most businesses, if you are of a reasonable size, we would spread that out over 2 weeks. I think that's a nice number. If you create less, spread it out. This is all about how much we rotate the different types of content more than how quickly we get it done. So let's take a look at the first type of content, which is 3 posts. The 3 posts are what we call good to know. And this is where you can share those industry insights. This is where you are giving us helpful tips on how I can make choices, make decisions, make buying decisions on the other side. So think about your ideal audience. What problems do they have? As people say, not the headache everyday ones, but what about those migraine ones that keep them up at night? How can your business help them solve those types of things? And quite often when you've got a business that's got subject matter experts, you've got leadership teams, you've got a wide variety of people working in the business, you have such a pool of knowledge that you can create some amazing content that can really help these people. So working together as a team to give those really valuable and I think actionable insights is really important. And that is going to help people on the other side. So thought leadership type content from your brand, which falls under the demand generation style of content, right? So then we're going to move across into 2 posts. Now, if we just do lots and lots of thought leadership, then it can get pretty dry and boring and dull. Sorry, but it's really hard for someone to have enough charisma to put that kind of stuff across all the time. So we need to have a good mix, and especially with brands. So 2 posts are what I call good to feel. So what can your brand share that is a feel good type post where I can see your brand and what it stands for? So I want to see your values. I want to see whether you care about your people. I want to see behind the curtain of how stuff's made. So think about what are the cool things that are going on in your business that are not about your products and services. This type of content is heavily focused on the people within your business and the values that your business has. And so this also falls under, I would say, the demand gen content, because you're giving your audience further insights into your business. And again, helping them choose whether they choose you or your competitor can sometimes come down to not just the knowledge, but also the type of business and what you stand for. Now, that leaves us with one type of post that is left out of the 6 when we're rotating, and that is the good to buy posts. And good to buy posts, these are our lead gen posts. Again, they are super important, but they shouldn't be every single post. But equally, please don't ignore these posts. So this is where you can genuinely mix in things like register for my event, things like download my white paper. They have their place. And the good part is you've already earned the right and the interest from your audience and your community on LinkedIn to then want to know more. And that is brilliant. That is exactly the time that you want people to engage with your lead gen content. That is when they are ready. That is when they trust your business. They know that you show up and give value day after day, time after time. So why wouldn't things like your events have that even more? So again, 3 good to know, 2 good to feel, 1 good to buy. And that is the perfect balance of demand gen content and lead gen content. And when you get this mix right, I promise you, you will fix your engagement rates and you will get those qualified leads that you're looking for. And not just qualified leads, but high quality leads, ones where they show a really high level of interest. And I find this really interesting because one of my clients that I was working with, they do a lot of attribution in the background. They've got some cool software that they use. And they actually know on their company page, with the content that they've been creating consistently and the brand building content that we're doing, they know when somebody reaches out via their inbox on LinkedIn and says, I want to know more about your product or service, that client pretty much 8 times out of 10 converts into a paying client because, again, they've got that balance right. And the audience who's been following along are the ones that are putting their hands up and taking that action and reaching out via the LinkedIn direct messages on the company page. I know that the 3-2-1 content strategy works. I see it with my clients all the time. And when we find the right balance, and we're in service of our audience and we stop focusing all about the brand and actually building your brand and building that trust, that pays off in dividends. Listeners, as I wrap up today's episode, I've got a challenge for you. It's time to get this and put it into action. I want you to go back to your company page, take a look at the last 10 or 20 posts and mark them. Were they good to know, good to feel, or good to buy? i.e., are you also doing demand gen and lead gen content, and have you got that balance right? And if when you go back over things and all you see is download my white paper, sign up for my events, here's our case studies and things along those lines where you're just talking about your brand because you want their email address, you've got some homework to do. Just want to do a quick shout out to all of the podcast listeners that have signed up for my newsletter. It's a brand new newsletter. The first edition has gone out. I got over my mental hump and actually got it out there into the real world, which I am super pumped about. I'm going to put the link on how you can sign up for that email newsletter. That's going to help us keep in contact. If you happen to miss a podcast episode, then the newsletter will show up and help you keep caught up with all the LinkedIn tips and strategies you need to grow your business. So until next episode, cheers.